Welcome to a brand new episode of This Week in Apps. I'm Ariel from App Figures, and here's your weekly roundup of the most interesting developments in the world of mobile apps and games, and this week was full of them. Let's start at the top. Remember Truth Social, the Twitter clone launched by Donald Trump earlier this year? The app many thought could have what it takes to compete with Twitter had a great launch thanks to a clever App Store trick, but downloads dropped very low, very fast, to the point it was mostly forgotten. So forgotten, Donald Trump hasn't even used it. Well, both of those changed this week. Trump's social network, Truth Social, which looks like Twitter but with different labels, rose to the top of the US App Store, which is the only place where you can find the app right now. But it stayed there for the entire week. At the same time, Trump announced he'd finally start using the platform. Is it chicken or the egg? You decide. Estimating that sort of demand is tricky, but our app intelligence shows downloads have grown more than 3,500% this week. Daily downloads went from single-digit thousands for much of this year to more than 146,000 on Tuesday as the app topped the App Store. Yes, it's still only available in the US, and no, it's not available for Android, yet it's the top app right now. Can Trump keep this new social network relevant? Will Truth Social build up a diverse enough user base to compete with Twitter? Does it even matter now that Elon owns Twitter? Only time will tell. The big news this week came after a few weeks of internet struggle for Iron Man. Elon Musk has officially acquired Twitter this week in a deal that had so many ups and downs, I'd rather just skip right to the end. And somehow this transaction became super political, something I really don't want to touch, so I'm going to focus on the numbers. I feel like I need to make this clear. See, so many people threatened they'd leave Twitter that I was curious to see if downloads would also suffer. The short answer is no. They didn't, not at all. Downloads actually skyrocketed. Twitter became the number 2 most downloaded app in the US this week, right behind Trump's Truth Social. We estimate that all the commotion around Twitter has caused downloads, which averaged somewhere in the 300,000 to 400,000 range earlier in the year, to double to more than 750,000 on Tuesday. So not everyone is leaving, and looking at the numbers, many are joining. Twitter has changed so many times in the past that this feels somewhat normal to me, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what would happen. On to what I think is actually, though, way more important. News emerged last week that Apple has been emailing developers who haven't updated their apps in a long time and threatening with removal if the apps aren't updated in the next 30 days. I was curious how many apps and games could disappear next month, so I used Explorer to see how many apps in the App Store haven't been updated in over 2 years. The short answer is a lot. And if you're curious what Explorer is, it's a search engine that lets you search through and get data on millions of mobile, desktop, and CTV apps. I'll drop a link to it in the description if you want to check it out. Back to numbers. The more precise answer is 752,412. That's right, Apple is threatening to remove 750,000 apps from the App Store. Explorer shows these apps come from about 260,000 unique developers, so that's a lot of emails. Let's do some math. There are 2,126,366 apps in the games in the App Store right now, which means Apple could be eliminating 35% of the App Store in a few days. And if you're thinking that's way too many apps, keep in mind that roughly 7,000 apps get released to the App Store every week. Who's going to take the hit? Digging a bit deeper with Explorer, it shouldn't surprise anyone that the largest category to get hit is games, which make up roughly 20% of all offending apps. Education, business, utilities, and lifestyle round out the top 5. Now, will Apple actually delete so many apps? Well, it won't be the first time. Over the last few years, Apple has quietly groomed the App Store, eliminating hundreds of thousands of apps. Moving from 32-bit to 64-bit resulted in a big sweep, and another came later with changes to screen resolution and Retina graphics. So this is totally plausible. If you're in the process of updating your app or game, I'd highly recommend spending some time on App Store optimization, and I will include a few links you can use to get started in the description below. You might as well. Now, one of the apps Apple isn't sweeping anytime soon is Hinge, the dating app that's been chasing big swipers Tinder and Bumble. And the chase is strong, especially when we look at revenue. According to our estimates, Hinge set a new record for daily revenue last Sunday with nearly $620,000 of net revenue globally. For context, Hinge's daily average in March was around $410,000, so that's an increase of more than 50%. Hinge set its last daily high in January, the day when parental pressure forces many single folks to unlock unlimited swipes to find love or get their parents to leave them alone. One or the other. But although commendable, Hinge has a long road to travel before it can catch up to its swipey rivals, Bumble and Tinder, who operate at what feels like a different level. Bumble earns more than 3 times what Hinge earns on average every day, and Tinder more than doubles that. Let's end on a good note. It's been a while since I looked at how apps that were hit the hardest by COVID lockdowns are faring. I'm happy to share some good news today. Airbnb was one of the apps that got hurt by COVID lockdowns the most. It was doing so well in 2019, but then lockdowns made growth very, very hard, and downloads got cut by as much as 80%. Airbnb spent most of 2021 rebuilding that growth, and as of this week, hit a single day downloads higher than any day going back pre-pandemic. Our estimates show that in 2019, daily downloads averaged around 80,000. That grew to about 100,000 in 2019, but hit a low of under 30,000 in the early days of the pandemic. It averaged 60,000 in 2020, and in 2021 climbed back to just about 80,000 daily downloads. 2022 has been Airbnb's greatest rally. Daily downloads have been growing steadily, and this Tuesday crossed 158,000 according to our estimates. That's higher than any single day going back as far as 2017. The previous high was set in January of 2020, so pre-pandemic. I can't guarantee this growth will continue forever, but having looked at many other apps that suffered, I don't think it'll stop anytime soon. The demand for IRL is back, and it's very strong. And that's all I have for you this week. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you next week.